Welcome to another episode of Awaken Now What. I'm your host, Jay-R.
And I'm your co-host, Helen. Awaken Now What is a podcast that illuminates your spiritual awakening and ascension. Today we have a guest, Galt. Let's welcome Vaughn, everyone.
Welcome, Vaughn.
Yay! I'm so excited to be interviewed by you two.
We're excited to have you here. So a little bit about yourself. You're a qhht practitioner. You're the author of the Buddhist Mandala series. You're a PreLife Planner, and you're the host of the very successful podcast, Merkaba Chakras. Now, you are very popular on YouTube, but for our listeners who aren't familiar with you or your material, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah. And YouTube is just a fraction of the audience ship because honestly, I have no clue how wide the scope is because my marketing people I work with, they continue to try to find new podcast directory sites and RSS blog sites to put it in. So last count was 170 different circulations and 6 or 7 different video sharing platforms. YouTube is one of them. And a majority of the audience is in Russia, India, Asia, and the Pacific Islands, where high bandwidth is an issue and where audio is listened to because video is really expensive with the streaming capabilities. And so that's where most of the viewership comes from. And of course, it's a Buddhism podcast, Buddhism in the Fifth Dimension, and it completely matches the audience base. But in terms of viewership, I honestly don't know. What I do like to see is I like to see my reality reflected in the content I put out there in terms of more people awakening, more people getting sixth senses, more people looking for resources to help live a high vibe life in a fifth dimensional consciousness. And so when I see more of that, I'm very happy that I am pitching in and raising that consciousness and that frequency. But my background, really short, is I'm from Laos. I'm Laotian, and I live here in the United States, in Seattle, Washington. And all my life, I grew up going to different Buddhist monastic temples and monasteries in the United States, also in Laos, because my family funds the restoration of artwork in all of these temples, because artwork is very important because that's how we pass down folklore, which is tribal knowledge about how to do things, and we pass down cultural knowledge and information through the images because literacy has over time become an issue. So art is how we pass down tribal knowledge. And so I had studied these murals all my life in all these temples because I got bored with the basics of Buddhism, which is how not to be a douchebag and continue to create karma. So you keep coming back on trying to undo old karma and you get stuck in the wheel of dharma. So I totally understood that. I got bored of that. That's not my lesson. So I studied the artwork, and I was the kid that ran around all the monasteries looking at the artwork, playing with the ducks, trying to swim and hang out with the lotuses in the lotus ponds. And oftentimes the young student monks and nuns would come out and watch the children, make sure that they don't destroy anything. And that's where I got most of my understanding about Buddhist mandalas, which is your Merkaba, your aura field. All the artwork in these monasteries have pictures of the master teacher, like Kuan Yin, like the first Buddha, Siddhartha Gautama Shakyamuni, like Yeshua ben Yosef, Miriam Magdalene, so many others. They all have these huge aura fields. And basically, these aura fields is sacred geometry. It's your Christ consciousness, crystalline consciousness. And that aura field is fluid, so it can go up in frequency or down in frequency. And depending on the frequency it resonates at, it will bring you to a matching physical reality in which you are experiencing and engaging in this sojourn. And that's basically it. That's the secret to this whole thing. You're basically having a physical incarnation within existence, which is samsara, and you have dominion over this physical reality. However, many of you are getting caught up in the Dharma wheel and the psyops in each reality, so you get stuck in certain realities. And that's what I learned growing up. And I had many monks and nuns growing up in many temples. All the senior monks and nuns would stop in the middle of their lectures to see who was the high frequency individual that just walked in the door. And oftentimes they would go from my dad to my mom, and they would come down to my older sister, and then they would come down to me, which was a little girl that was just basically looking around for something to do. And they were oftentimes very shocked that it's a little girl that has this high teacher energy field. And teachers in Buddhism have lions in their aura field, which I have in past interviews shown my Merkaba, which has lion heads on an 8-spoke wheel of Dharma. And that's what my voice, the image of my voice is a 8-spoke wheel of Dharma with lions on top of the pillars, just like you see in all the Buddhist temples. And so there was that confirmation, the senior monks having confirmation, and they understood that I was too young. I didn't come into my material yet. And I wasn't comfortable talking about the Great Library and my splinter of memories working in the Great Library in the PreLife, in the spirit world, consulting tulku, which in Buddhism, tulku are advanced souls that's had more than one sojourn within samsara. They've come out of nirvana and they've incarnated into physical reality in earth, in different planets, in different dimensions, etc., to have their sojourn for whatever their intended purpose was. So I wasn't comfortable and ready to speak about that until I wrote my Buddhism books, which came up forth after 20 years of researching metaphysics, consciousness, energy healing, all of these scientific advancements in these areas that substantiated what I already knew. So now I have the academic backings of the stuff that I already knew growing up. And so now I feel comfortable talking about this as a pre-life planner who's incarnated in the physical form. The other confirmation is, like you said earlier, Jay-R, I'm a qhht practitioner, which is from the former hypnotist and author Dolores Cannon. And she has a method for hypnosis, which is deep meditation. And I also use other modalities of quantum hypnosis as well, which is beyond quantum healing. Those are the two most popular people know about in this space. But in Buddhism, we've been using hypnosis as deep meditation for as long as they remember it, to tap into the spirit world and get clarity on things that we have questions about. But in modern times, those are the modalities that I use. And my clients get sent to me from their spirit guides, their angels, their ancestors on the other side, from their alien collective family that sent them to me. And there's usually some metaphysical reason for why they get sent to me, like the computer broke down to turn it on, my website was up there all of a sudden, etc. So lots and lots of stories for weird ways in how they find me. And the reason why they found me is because I helped them pre-life plan their incarnation. They were one of the tulku that came here for certain reasons, to raise consciousness and to help heal through raising consciousness. And so confirmation from all these clients since I started offering it to the public in 2012 were over and over again, all these clients all over the world going, I recognize you. I remember you. You told me to do this. You told me to do that. I didn't listen to you. I'm stuck. So after like 10 or so years of getting these clients all over the world through quantum hypnosis validate what all these other people have been saying, I finally accepted, okay, fine. I'm a pre-life planner from the spirit world. And let's talk about why you're stuck on the wheel, Dharma. So that's kind of the rundown of kind of how I got into the space. Yeah. So let's talk about reincarnation and pre-life planning, and so that we can get some clarity.
One question. So all your clients...
There's that sound again.
Is it me?
I don't know. I keep hearing like a fourth voice in this, and
So,
Helen heard it too.
Yeah, I heard it.
This happened before. This is crazy.
All right.
Anyways, all right. Whatever voices out there, please do not interfere our lines of connection. We are protected. Thank you.
Oh, it's the spirit world and different alien incarnations that's timing in because they want the real time recording.
Yeah.
Oh, that's probably what it was. Just a curious question on my end. So, all of your clients, you basically counseled them as a pre-life planner, and you got confirmation from this through your hypnotherapy sessions.
Well, before I even do the quantum hypnosis sessions, like they reach out to me, and I ask them, how did you find me? And they said I was listening to a Dolores Cannon, or I was looking for a metaphysical practitioner. I was looking for, whatever. And then your site popped up, one of your blog articles pop up, something, or my my spirit guide told me, go just look again for a practitioner in these areas, search these keywords, and it'll pop up. So most of them basically start with the conversation, you're gonna think I'm crazy, and I'm gonna say no, and they say, okay, my spirit guide or my dead grandmother told me to search these and find you. I've been waiting my whole life to find you. And I just had somebody in Utah say, I've been waiting my whole life to find you, to heal these issues so I can finish my task here. And or they'll say, my alien collective I have dreams about is telling me, go and find Dawn, it's Vaughn. So they would search, and so I have all these interesting stories, metaphysical stories of how they find me, and it's usually motivated by their spirit posse, which is their ancestors, their alien collective, if they're a reincarnation of a starseed descendant, and the spirit guides of different dimensions or realms, all these different other interdimensional, higher dimensional beings, get them to find me, and then they find me, and then we connect, either come to my house or do it online for the remote version of hypnosis, BQH. And oftentimes they just are in shock because they're like, I recognize you, I know you, we had this conversation. I was like, yes, you had this conversation in spirit world, you're back here again. Okay, so I'm going to ask you to do something that you're probably not comfortable with or not used to. I'm going to ask you to be quiet and listen and do the homework I asked you to do, because there's a reason why you're back here. You've been running around in circles. Okay, so I need you to check your ego at the door and follow these steps so you can move forward, accelerate your path into your ascensioning process, and work on your six senses, and get to the thing that you came here to complete. So when you go back to nirvana, or back to the spirit world, if you don't want to go back to nirvana, you completed your mission. Okay. So, and at that point, 99% of them are receptive. There's always that 1% who's still kind of stubborn. So I'm like, okay.
Some need the tough love approach.
Yeah. So I don't counsel because I'm not a counselor. I don't have a psychology degree or anything else. I'm just a Buddhist practitioner who happens to use different energy healing modalities, like quantum hypnosis, to help my clients. Kind of like if you were going to a psychic or medium, this entertainment. That's the pathway that I go into. This is just entertainment. So and so then we go over their client intake form to see what has transpired so far, what brought me to my office, and then we do the quantum hypnosis session to talk to source, to talk to deceased loved ones, to talk to whatever they need to talk to get that clarity that they need. And then they go home with their recording, with material. If they had read my books, I send my books because I answered a lot of their questions. And then I give them homework depending on what they're here to do. And some people will only have 5 lines of homework. Some people will have 15 lines of homework. And then I say, reach out to me when you're done with your homework. Don't call me any sooner. I don't really care about your money, okay? I got other people that's hitting me up too, and you need to do your homework.
Right, right. That's amazing. So, reincarnation and the pre-life planning process. What are the specifics of it? How do we get into it? What is your process during the pre-life planning process of the soul?
Okay, so there is no cookie cutter process for how you create your pre-life plan. Okay. So I'll have to say this because I do get some pushback from people of certain religions like Christian, and God bless the Christians. I love them. Okay. I have nothing against the Christians or even against anybody with any other faith system because they all take you back to source. They all take you back to God, take you back to nirvana at some point. But um, the thing is that there is nirvana and samsara. Nirvana and samsara. Nirvana is the space, the spiritual emptiness, the black void, the blue screen of all creation. There's nothing there. It's just bliss and peace with source, with God, whatever you want to call that creator being. The Lord Buddha is source, okay? The one main Buddha, universal mind. All the Buddhist mirrors all go up to one main Buddha, which is the creator. Anyways, so there's no argument there. There's just the creator, there's just source, the Lord. And we all are fractal aspects of that spirit. Okay. We are spirit, we're incarnating in different versions to come into existence, which is samsara, physical existence, to engage with the creations directly. So when the Lord wants to take a break from being everything, it will just focus on being just Helen. It will focus on being just Jay-R. This is their break. This is its break, okay? Instead of bringing everything, sometimes they'll just slightly focus on just you and see what your journey is and what experiences are you having within samsara. How are you engaging with creation, and how are you using the tools to have the most beneficial and loving creations as possible in this physical dimension. That's basically it. Okay, so we're all connected, good, bad, all of it. We're all going through a sojourn. We all go back to nirvana, even the bad people. Okay, they just go to an alternative school for rehab when they go to the other side. Okay, all right, they're depending on how you look at it and certain levels how you look at it, you can see some of the really devious souls that just do not want to learn as demons, as you know, Satanists, whatever negative aliens, whatever you want to call them. You can see the lower dimensions as hell or lower astral planes or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter. If it exists within the consciousness of the Lord, of the Creator. Okay, just like there's a yin and a yang. In every yin, there's a little bit of the yang. In every yang, there's a little bit of the yin, because in creation, there needs to be some kind of mirror of opposite in order for you to mirror back that you exist. There needs to be a 1 and a 0, a up and a down, a right and a left, a male and a female. There always needs to be batteries need a positive and negative charge. They don't look at the other and say, now you stop being so negative. However, in the higher dimensions of positivity within the yin and yang structure, the negative is like the very tippy top of the lower astral plane. It's like the positive of the lower astral. And for the negative, the positive, the little positive aspect is like the lowest part of the higher positive plane. Do you get that? Basic concept. That's just the reality of how samsara physical existence is created. If you didn't want to have a physical sojourn, you would stay with source infinitely in the spiritual emptiness of bliss with source. And most people don't know what nirvana is like because they don't leave. And when they leave, they can't express what it's like because it's just too much. It's just too much abundance of positivity. It's basically the creator. So how do you express that in words and in visuals?
Right.
It's just so much. So you don't ever leave. But sometimes they do leave. Okay. Sometimes they do leave. And Source will pump out some of these source code souls, these tulku, to do a sojourn, to do a bodhisattva journey. We have some beings within samsara, Earth in the 21st century. They're going to transcend from the third dimension of consciousness to a higher dimension of consciousness. And so they need some help in this transition. It's going to be a crazy ride, and you're probably going to regret it. Is there any volunteers?
I raised my hand.
And you apparently regretted it. Yeah. Is there any volunteers? Yeshua did it, and so did many others. So, but yeah, so that's basically what happens. And some of these source code souls that came here are, for example, David R. Hawkins, the mental health doctor who wrote Power versus Force. He even says that he remembers being in spirit world with God directly. Totally happy, was not happy to be pushed out and be incarnated as a little boy waking up into a physical body on Earth. But he completed his job, which was to bring the map of consciousness. So we can calibrate people's Merkabas. Also, there are many, many others as well. So these are Toku source code souls that came here. And then you also have ancient souls that's had incarnations in different star systems, different dimensions that are very, very advanced. And in order to help them complete their mission to integrate new cultures into the fold of the greater cosmos, they needed to send one of their own to incarnate as that human being on Earth, to bring back to their collective, what is it like? What are we working? How do these people think? La 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 la, all these other kind of things. They basically needed their own people to do intel. Okay, and then leave a little bit of positivity before they left. And these people are what also we call tulku, because they're ancient starseed souls. Now, so those are the two type of tulku in Buddhism. They're just ancient starseed souls. And what happens is, before they incarnate into a physical reality, we're just going to talk about humans on Earth in the 21st century, in this transition to higher realities of consciousness and of reality. They meet with their pre-life planner. It's kind of like if you were to go on a vacation and then you talk to a consultant, and your consultant goes, well, where do you want to go on vacation? Okay, you want to go to Barbados. What do you want to do? I want to snorkel. I want to do this. Okay. All right, perfect. Or they go, I don't know what I want. There's just so much. And they say, go out to the library and go and read all the other books of everybody else's lives that they have experienced. So you open up books and you immerse yourself in that book and you experience it as if it's you. And then you got the download of, oh, what was it like to be Cleopatra? What was it like to be, Einstein, blah, 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 whatever. And then you narrow it down and you go back to your pre-life planner or your guidance counselor or your tourism consultant, whatever you want to call it. So you go back to your pre-life planner and then they go through, okay, you narrow it down. All right, so now you want to go to have your sojourn or vacation in Barbados. You want to have these experiences. So now you need the proper equipment to have that experience. So I'm not going to give you basic swim gear, a swimming suit, and say, go off and go and swim with the sharks, or go and swim with the whatever, deep sea dive with just that basic. No, you need the proper equipment to have the experience that you came here to have. So they will give you the proper snorkeling gear and the proper connect you with the proper people that you need to connect to so you can get to that location, so you can have that deep sea diving experience in beautiful Barbados. And so those are all the people that you come across in your life that you go, you just seem so familiar. It's just like deja vu. I just know I'm supposed to meet you. Oh my God, it's like it's supposed to meet you. You just fit right in. They were contracted to provide that connection so you can have your experience. Okay, that's kind of how it works. And then you have your experience and you go back home and you tell everybody about your last experience. And then you can just stay home or you can go on vacation again. That's a simple idea. Okay.
Great analogy, great metaphor. Do the planners account for the soul's karma? Do they take that into account? Do they plan their karma, or is that separate?
Okay, so I just gave you a quick analogy to understand intentions and goals. So everybody set out a certain goal that they want. And most advanced souls just want to experience like the best of the best. So they become food critics, or they become book writers, or they become tour guides, or they want to experience the best of the best. So or they become like business tycoons, like, ooh, I want to learn how to make a lot of money, and it's like one thing after another. They get the promotions and they get the da da da, and you're like, how is it so? Because it's all pre-planned for them. Okay, that's why sometimes the people who are the richest, you wonder how they get there because it's just not connected in there. There's a lot of loose screws. It's because it's planned for them to have that experience. So don't be envious of other people's soul journeys that they set up for themselves. You just need to find out what you're set up for so you can have the best ride for yourself. And then I went over the parameters for your incarnation. Okay, so that's like the body you have, the race, the class, the religion, the blah blah blah. The list goes on. Okay, and then if you've already had incarnations in the past and you created old karma, which is basically old life lessons that you have yet to overcome, all right, that's really what all dense energy is. Karma is just dense energy that you have yet to transcend. You have yet to forgive, let go, learn from it so you don't do it again and repeat it unconsciously in another lifetime. Those do come in if you have those. It doesn't matter how many lifetimes you had. You can have one lifetime and have a whole bunch of old debts, or you can have many and only have like maybe 2 or 3 to let go of. So depending on those old dense issues you have yet to transcend and grow from, they will be factored in. So for example, and I get this with my hypnosis clients where they really want to attract a wonderful partner in their life. They want a love companion, but they just, for whatever reason, keep attracting the same person that cheats on them. Okay. Over and over again. And they don't understand. They date different types, the same person. And so when they go through their pre-life plan and they go through their past lives, they come across a life that they did not forgive that person. That person keeps coming back in different lifetimes as different things, trying to figure out how to forgive each other, learn from it, all that kind of stuff, transmute that relationship. And so once they understand that and they go, okay, for example, the reason why I keep attracting this person that cheats is because I'll take a case of a client. This was her exact issue. She kept attracting somebody like her father who was alcoholic and would when he was alcoholic, he did things that he didn't recognize or want to do when he was drunk. And one of the things was he's a womanizer when he drinks at the bars. And then he regrets it afterward, but he has this bad habit that he needs to fix because he had learned it from his lifetime or his childhood, learning it from his parents. And so he was just basically picking up an old program from his parents and unconsciously continuing that program, and then carried on to this woman who was attracting someone much like her dad. And so when she understood that and she transmuted that and go, okay, I get why I keep attracting this type. Now I understand why I attract this type. I forgive it. I let it go. And in the hypnosis, through my client, I have my client talk to the higher self of her father, whether he's alive or deceased, help him understand why that transpired in his life, showed him that. And then sometimes we'll even go another generation back to his childhood where there was a pivotal moment in his childhood where he first picked up this pattern of behavior and talked to that child version of the father to talk to and correct that timeline where this all started. So now we're fixing generational patterns that did not serve 3 generations, all went back to my client. And now my client understands that, transmutes it, is no longer needing this life lesson to attract. So now she's no longer interested in these type of guys. And very quickly, within 6 months, she attracted a mate that is perfect for her. They talk about things. They're very mature. They're sharing stuff. They're having a baby. I mean, she's just as happy as can be. But that's what it takes, is to stop and really look at these patterns, these programs that we have picked up, and where did they come from, so that we can transmute that old karma. And so when you learn that lesson, you no longer need that lesson. And so when you go, you've lived this life, and if you reincarnate again in another lifetime, if you choose to reincarnate, because it's optional to reincarnate, but it is the fastest way to accelerate your path in the spirit world to go into newer experiences, because it's just like when you go to school, they ask you for the prerequisites. Do you know basic reading or writing to go to this next class? Oh, you need to get really good because you're going to struggle in this next class. So we recommend you take these courses. And so then you're going back and you take these lifetimes that have certain aspects so that you can get the certain skills that you need, so that when you go into another next level curriculum or sojourn, you'll have a more fun time and not struggle as much as if you didn't take the prerequisites. And that's all these lifetimes are, just prerequisites for greater and grander experiences in higher and higher dimensions.
Right.
That's it. So yes, you guys at some point have, through some kind of philosophy or belief system, accepted that there's a God. Great. That's basics. Good for you. Yes, we're all connected. We're all one. You understand how some stars created polarity, duality. Oh, great. You understand the purpose of negative beings and how they got lost in the soul journey. You understand the lower dimensions and how they all struggle to overcome their inner demons, because most people aren't in the lower astral realms, or what some people call hell, because of they're not sitting there playing over and over again like the demon's going to beat me up. What they're playing over and over again is their life lessons that they feel that they keep on punishing themselves with. That's what those beings, that's what those people down there are doing all the time. Is they're just punishing self for not being a good mom, not being a good dad, for not making a certain decision that caused pain and suffering. That's the hell that they play over and over again, and they just need to transcend that, forgive themselves, learn from it, and move on. And then instantly they will be out of that space back into the higher dimensions of positive spirit world. So I don't want to get too far into that, because there's so many different ways that souls will punish themselves with pain and suffering, and we get very creative. We do it here in the physical, but yeah. So anyways, yeah, karma does play into it. It's very easy when you break it down, and then when you break it down, you understand it. Then it's like, okay, now that you're clear and you're off the wheel dharma, how are you going to use the resources to create your next best experience for the rest of this life? And then, of course, when you go back in the spirit world, you go back to nirvana, you can choose your next sojourn if you want to. If you want to. You don't have to, okay? Everybody goes to nirvana at some point.
Right.
Everybody's connected to the Lord, period. So whatever, and whether you find that information through Yeshua ben Yosef, through Buddha, through Kuan Yin, through whoever, that's fine. It all goes back to the source. So I don't really argue too much with what's better, what my religion is better, or my teacher that got me here is better. That's ego stuff. Just go to Christ consciousness, get to source, get to your next best experience. That's really simple.
You're basically overseeing the soul's ascension process. Are you in direct communication with God, source,
Everybody is.
Right, during the pre-life planning process.
Yeah, because everybody's connected in the pre-life, even now, because it sounds like you, because it is you, and it's not you. Okay. So even now, I like when I'm working with a client, I would just instantly feel a little bit of goosebumps, and then I would just it would feel like, okay, well, now this is the information that is coming to my mind. It'll just pop in my mind. You need to do this, this, and this. Here's some recommendations. I'll give you some homework, whatever. So, and even with real world events, I don't get too much into the psyops of what's going on in whatever reality, but I did get involved with the peony because my whole being and spirit was communicating in my dreams, in my being, that I need to be on a certain side with medical sovereignty, because that was going to direct people to a certain timeline, high or low.
Right.
And it is these decisions we make. There are small decisions and big decisions in your life. That's why when you incarnate, everything is flexible. Okay, you don't have to carry out the life lessons that you set up for yourself if you learn the lesson early. Okay, for example, you don't have, your bottom can be raised. Okay, if you learn the lesson early, you don't have to lose everything and get beaten up to learn to pick yourself up and make better decisions for yourself. If you can learn that with just maybe losing a little bit and a little bit of pain instead of a lot, you've learned it, you won't repeat it again. You know how to correct your mistake and how you created that experience, and you move on. So everybody can raise their bottoms. Unfortunately, many people need to go really, really bottom before they realize they no longer want this. Okay.
Wow. Um, any questions from you, Helen?
Do your clients come looking for pre-life planning, or is it more like when they come for like a past life regression and then it comes up that there's questions about the pre-life plan?
Most of them basically, because most of my clients are the modern term is starseed, and I've been accused of this. This all Vaughn talks about is new age stuff. Well, guess what? New age stuff goes back to ancient esoterics, and
Right.
the biggest library, the biggest library that's documented of ancient esoterics is Buddhism. Okay, because it's a monastic school, it's a university.
Yeah.
Of consciousness, and there's so many, and they all add to it and add to it and add to it. And Hindu it is also, but that, and the murals, the art history is also part of the canon as well. So it all goes back to, it's all the same stuff. There's nothing new in the sun. So there's really no point arguing, well, this sounds like new age mumbo jumbo. It's the same stuff. Okay, it's the same stuff. It all goes back to consciousness, our direct connection with source, and how we want to live our sojourn. That's basically it. And if you want to spend the rest of your life poo-pooing on the basics, then that's fine. Then you go back and your pre-life plan is going to kick your butt and go back and learn again. You wasted another lifetime.
Is pre-life planning similar or the same as fetus in the womb planning?
That's just a process to the experience, the fetus in the womb, because that's one of the parameters. Like, which parents are you going to incarnate into that's going to give you this experience that you need? So, like my pre-life planning, and I knew this for myself, for example, but one of my mission in this life is to raise consciousness and bring energy healing back to the masses. Introduce them back to energy healing, metaphysics, and consciousness, which is basic 3 pillars of Buddhism: metaphysics, consciousness, and energy healing. The Tankas, for example, was all energy healing, along with many others. Bring that back to the fold, raise consciousness, and when you raise consciousness through your decisions, then that will put you into a parallel reality that is of higher frequency if you made the decision that is of higher frequency and resonance, hence your own personal Mandela effect. So I have clients come in all the time for Mandela effect in their lives, personal Mandela effects, whereby they have a different history all of a sudden to
Right.
why somebody in the family got injured in a different place than what they had experienced. Like, or I do get a lot of Christian people who want to understand why the scriptures have changing. Why is it the lion and the lamb no longer there, and now it's the lamb lays down with the wolf? And I have 1583 Geneva Bibles in Latin and in English so that they can verify the oldest version before the King James Version. They see it and they're like, why is that? And so they never get that information from their pastors because they don't know the ancient folklores. So, and so somehow their spirit guide send them to me, and I fill in the blanks, and I basically say, these basics, you incarnated here to have a sojourn for your own soul's purpose. You didn't plan to have a lot of suffering and pain, but along the way you got lost, you got caught up in everybody else's melodramas, and you're stuck in the wheel of dharma by creating unnecessary karma that you never should have created in the first place.
Right.
That was not for you. So let's undo some of this and get you back on your path. So you know how to navigate reality without getting burned every single time you get involved, this, that, whatever.
Yeah.
You essentially act as one of the spirit guides from the spirit side. That's kind of what I'm getting. Or are they a completely different team?
Oh, it's all the same. It's all, everybody in non-physical is your spirit guide.
Okay.
You're just putting labels on them. You're just putting labels on them. The thing that is most powerful is your life review, which you can have your life review when you're going through a car accident and you have your flash your whole life, or when you go to impactful situations in your life, like maybe a child was being born, or you're asking for somebody's hand in marriage, like really strong pivotal points in your life, you'll have a flash of your life review. But when you die, you do have your life review. And then life review can seem like hell for some people if they lived their life with a lot of suffering and pain. But basically it's this, and nobody gets away from their life review. The life review is you experience everything you've ever touched, created, affected, interacted with from the perspective of that person directly, and from the perspective of everybody that your actions ever affected. So for example, when you, let's say when you harm someone, you affect the harm, you experience the harm you create to that person, and then that harm affected their family, their friends, their pets, whoever. You experience those next tier people pain from viewing it from the person that you harm, and on and on and on. However many people got affected by your actions.
Right.
Wow.
Okay. When you see it that way, you're not going to want to harm anybody. Okay. You're going to really decide and be conscious of the things that you say and do. And yes, sometimes some things will harm people and you can't get away with it, but you'll try to mitigate as much as possible. That's why forgiveness and grace is and compassion is very critical, because sometimes in order to help somebody pick themselves up from their bottoms, you have to not enable them by letting them hit their bottoms. Okay. And so that's why it's not a cookie cutter situation when we pre-life plan people's excursions. But most people choose the loving experiences. Most people don't really have negative experiences. Okay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It seems like the easy choice, right?
Yeah. It's either choice. So most people are very smart. They'll go, "Ooh, that's not good. I don't want that. That's just, ooh, that's not. I'm not interested in that picture. No, no." So that's really good. That's really good. They see a little bit of the car accident and they just don't want any part of it. So most people take the lighter path and pick the better path, but others need a little bit of the hard lessons, and it's all part of their sojourn. So if you see something that doesn't resonate with you and you have the ability to help them in that situation, stand up for that situation, help correct it the best that you can, and then move back onto your life, but don't get too caught up. So light tips to kind of help navigate the reality.
Okay.
But yeah, that's the pre-life plan, and that one is the one that everybody is afraid of. And this is why some people, they died, they don't want to go to the spirit world because they're afraid of the pre-life plan.
The life review?
The
Or
life
the pre-life?
review. Yeah, the life review. That goes into pre-life planning of your next incarnation to correct what you're afraid to see in your life review. So a lot of ghosts, because I come across ghosts, and some people come like, I have a ghost that's haunting, and I'm like, okay, well, let's talk to the ghost, do quantum hypnosis. And it's basically, I don't want to go to the other side because I wasn't a good father, I wasn't a good mother, and I don't want to see them. I don't want to, be accountable for that. So they just basically put themselves in their own non-physical hell. And it's like, okay, you gotta let it go. You gotta go to the other side. There's a whole team to help you rehab your life and correct your path. It's nothing to be scared of. But even souls, when their body passes on, some souls stay behind because they're afraid of the life review.
Right. Those are what we call ghosts or leftover
Yeah.
spirit
If you talk to enough of them, it's the same mama drama.
stuff.
Yeah. So it's like there's nothing to be scared of. Stop being scared. Whatever your philosophies that told you to be scared, don't be scared. Have some faith that our creator is a whole lot more loving than you ever give it credit for, because it experienced how you got to be the way you are, and experienced directly why you feel the way you are. So it knows exactly the team to help you clean up. It's kind of like helping an addict clean up from what they created for themselves. So have some faith that no matter how negative, horrible you think you are, and maybe you are, there is a whole team on the other side prepared for specifically your case.
Right, which I was going to ask.
So
council,
give the Lord some credit.
how many more pre-life planners in the world are there? Do you know anyone?
There's infinite amounts. And they're not just in Earth, they're in many of them incarnate to other realities as well. Right. Yeah, and even the spirit world in the higher dimensions, they have pre-life planners too. That work on, there's like in college, there's guidance counselors for entry admissions, there's guidance counselors for master's programs, there's guidance counselors for PhD, whatever it is that you're interested in.
Wow.
Yeah, but I specifically, in my recall, I mostly just worked with tulku, people who are ancient advanced souls from different star systems. They've had other incarnations in different star systems, or directly from source, and they have no experience as a human being. So there's some orientation to humans on 21st century Earth. We have some weird things that you should know about. One, we don't always say what we mean. Two, even though we know what we're supposed to do and what we've been taught to do, we don't always have the courage to do it. Okay. And a lot of these ironic nuances that many other starseed souls are really puzzled about, so it is a master program for souls to come here and not remember who they are or what they're here for, and then maybe have some synchronicities that kind of lead them the way. And usually in this path, they'll finally at some point come across their pre-life planner if they need to. But for the most part, if you follow your synchronicities and you kind of follow the clues and you work the steps, you're going to get back on the path that you created for yourself. It's really hard to fail. And if you do fail, you're infinite anyways. So do another round.
I want to ask you about, so when you're going through the life planning, do you account for parallel timelines?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That spectrum.
Yeah, I actually have this joke about parallel lifetimes because I have dreams about parallel lives that I have with my husband in different lifetimes. And I'm always like, I need to play spin the bottle with different versions of you in different lifetimes. Like spin the bottle and see which one I like the best. And because I'm always the same in each one, and he was the same too. But there's one where he's a veterinarian and he is living in this old castle that he inherited. There's another one. I mean, there's just so many. There's another one where in the future, space farmers living in our farm spaceship above Earth, and we send our kids to different planets for university studies. They go through portals in our space, like kind of like Stargate in our spaceship. Everybody has it. So I mean that one's kind of fun. And so there's so many and I get these recalls. And so when you get to this point in your consciousness where you can be multidimensional and you get recall of in lucid dream or sometimes instant recall of different lives that you're experiencing right now, because they all technically experience now. The future, the past, the present, the spiritual, it's all existing now within the consciousness of source. Now, the only reason why there is time is for our understanding so we can see ourselves grow, because that progression and that measurement is how our consciousness is able to kind of evaluate growth and gratification to know where we were to where we are now. Oh, I feel so grateful now. Now that I know that I came from there. So so that's a tool. But yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, absolutely, it does.
Okay.
This has been so insightful. I've never heard of PreLife Planet before, and so thank you for filling in the gaps and educating us a little bit more.
Yeah. The thing I really want people to know is because I get this message from Source all the time, is don't get so hard on yourself if you don't think you are where you need to be, because you're exactly where you need to be based on the decisions that you have made. And based on the decisions that you're making, whether they're small or big, like small decisions will decide what your next experience is in this lifetime. Big decisions can decide your quantum jump into a whole different timeline. Okay, like your Mandela effects, where all of a sudden the lion lay down, the lamb never existed. That's like a quantum jump. Ed McMahon delivering the price checks,
Yes.
to the front door, never existed.
Happened.
Never happened. The movie Shazam with the comedian Sinbad, helping this poor interstate kid with his bullying issues and his single mom, who's always overworking herself. That movie that we watch, that I have memorized, never exists. Okay, these are quantum jumps. These are quantum jumps. Okay.
Are they quantum jumps, or are they major, massive psyops on a massive scale completed by the elite?
Well, see, it's a combination. It's a combination. Okay,
Right.
so one, when you look at pre-life planning away from the Earth game, I'm gonna call them games, away from the Earth game, and you look at pre-life planning in terms of the cosmos, the greater cosmos. Okay, Earth is the experiment of free will, of amnesia. Like it's literally the a beta program. Okay, let's see. No rules. No memory. Okay, we'll give them some help along the way, but honestly, we want like
free will,
complete, absolute free will. A lot of ancient souls will come in here because they're ready for this, and then let's see what they create on their own, and let's see if they find their way home. Okay, it is the ultimate challenge for souls.
Yeah,
It's
and it's
like
been a shit show. It's been a shit show, right?
It's kind of a shit show too. So it's kind of like when you're watching a movie and you're like,
right, you're covering your eyes, but you like, yeah, you
oh my God, they made it. Okay. All right. So in the greater scheme of things, sometimes they'll pop in people like me and others. They pop in a lot of us all over the place in different areas to kind of give guidance and kind of pull like the people who are actually making it through, like pull them along, and they pull everybody else along. All right. So but in the greatest scheme of things, here's the basic synopsis of what's going on from the pre-life planning. So Earth is going to become intergalactic. We're going to join the cosmos. In order to join with the cosmos, because most of the cosmos already have gone through their life lessons and they've grown as a reality, as civilizations, they mature to the higher levels. Okay, so they're in the fifth dimension of consciousness and beyond. Okay, so they're at higher grades. Well, Earth is going to transition into those higher levels. Those higher levels exist at higher frequencies because all of this is put together based on frequencies. The chair you're sitting on, me, I have my own resonance. You have your own resonance. The flowers in my hair have their own resonance. Everything has its own frequency, and so does the reality. It's just kind of like the longitude, latitude, on the planet when you're trying to locate where you want to market to or where you want to drive to. They have longitude, latitude. Well, Earth has a longitude, latitude based on its frequency within samsara. Well, in order for Earth to intermingle with all the other advanced planet systems in the cosmos, because they all have their own frequency, she needs to raise her frequency to a higher level to match them. And now you graduated and now you are in a different playing field with more of the cosmos. Okay, now let's isolate, with more of the cosmos. You met the basic requirements and now you can play in a bigger pool with all the other planets and universes and realities that have graduated to this level. And there's many that go all the way up. And anytime you can always go back to source. But if you want to play, then this is how it is. So Earth is raising her frequency. We already know this was Schumann resonance. That's already a fact. She's raising her frequency to higher levels. It's driving some people crazy because they're not catching up with it, because they're not doing their inner work, they're not doing their healing, they're not learning from their karma, the wheel of dharma, blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. You work on that, you raise your frequency into higher resonance, your higher mandala. You match Earth's frequency, you continue to go up with her. And when you go up with her, you go up to this higher reality where we become intergalactic with the cosmos. Okay, we have graduated to that level. Some people are going to make it. Some people are going to need other lifetimes in other incarnations on the third dimension until they can learn those lessons and raise their frequency. And then the next incarnation, should they choose to reincarnate again, will be open a whole nother catalog with the fifth dimensional planets or fifth dimensional consciousness of beings or higher. So that's kind of what's happening, is that we are transitioning into that. And when you transition into higher levels of consciousness, higher frequencies of reality, all your dirty deeds are going to come up for you because you can't take these third dimensional issues into the fifth dimension. Okay? So that's why that's why we're always like, oh, good. I think they're making it. So expect stuff that sounds like conspiracy to come out.
Right.
Expect all the dirty deeds, not only in your country, in your family, and everything else. It needs closure. It needs to be resolved some way or another peacefully. So it's gonna get crazy because you haven't seen anything yet. It's gonna get crazier and crazier and crazier because we have dirt. Earth has so much dirt.
Right.
Okay, that it has to come up in order to go through these higher frequencies, and it's going to be made to come up. Okay, so work on at least cleaning up your temple, cleaning up your life, so that you can navigate and not get so affected and so easily manipulated by all the different psyops in the reality that you're in, because those psyops, quote quote, are the dirt that needs to be revealed so they can be transmuted and clean and have that karma release. Okay, so it's happening on all levels, people's lives, governments, all levels, everything is all coming up. It's going to get crazy. So a lot of faith and prayer is going to help you guys get through that. Yeah. So that's against that's what's happening. Okay. And the other thing, Jay-R, to note about like the elites, quote quote, the elites. The thing is that if you go all the way up to the very top, it's the it's higher dimensional beings who are negative, playing with the lower beings and the lower realities that they don't belong to.
Right.
Like, okay, this is not your sandbox, but for whatever reason, it's kind of fun to bully around the kindergartners when you are like in third grade, because they don't know any better. You can manipulate them, all that. So anyways, the thing is that in order to keep the reality at the lower levels, you must continue to distract them with nonsense. So they don't work on their healing and they don't get back on the path that they came here to do. Like pull them off their, it's like you're going on an amusement ride and you intended to go to this roller coaster and have this experience, and you're in Disneyland going on an amusement ride, and then you have this animal jumping out, and you have this big show here, and then you kind of veer away. Before you know it, you completely lost your path, and you're like in a weird section of the amusement park, and the day's gone by, and your vacation's over, and you're like, what the hell happened? I got completely sidetracked doing things that I did not intend to do, completely dropped my agenda that I came here to do and the things that I was supposed to do. And now I gotta do this amusement ride all over again. So that's what it is, where many people are getting caught up with the distractions. Okay, they're getting diverted, and they're getting stuck in the wheel of dharma. Drama, dharma is the same thing. They're getting stuck in the dharma wheel, and that the way to get stuck in the dharma wheel is to keep feeding you pain, suffering, and fear in so many different ways, because that's how you
can choose what we want to experience.
Yes. So pain, suffering, and fear is the easiest way to so that you don't ever find the solution, never find the solution, so that you continue to keep your frequency low and stay in the lower levels of reality, so you don't go to fifth dimensional consciousness. And that's what's going on with the ones at the higher levels that are trying to control and manipulate the populace's consciousness to manifest the lower realities by keeping them in that lower realities through all these fear antics. Okay, if you see it from a spiritual level, then you get it. You're like, oh, that makes sense. Okay, but yeah, so I always say, you know, because right now a lot of people are going, I'm really sick, I'm really disturbed. The thing is that Source is really graceful, and there's a lot of resources. Even if you are in an illness that may not be part of your pre-life plan to have that illness to kind of help you amplify to your next experience. Like somebody who has, I'll give you an example. The Cancer Research Foundation, I think it's Susan, I can't remember her name, but she started a cancer research foundation, and it was because her sister had died of cancer, and her sister had died of cancer propelled her to start this cancer foundation to raise money for cancer research to help all these other women who died of breast cancer. Had her sister never had that illness, she would have never done that and affected millions upon millions of women who were suffering from breast cancer, like her sister did. Okay, that was part of her pre-life plan. It's a tough lesson, but it was part of the pre-life plan to initiate a greater outcome. Okay, but not everybody has those pre-life plans of having certain illnesses be part of their life. They maybe have taking a path that was not intended, and now they're in a whole different path. And so if it's not part of your karma to have that, you can address it, and Source will give you energy healing and pathways and different modes to kind of help you clear up your temple so that you can have the best soldier in the body that you're experiencing this reality through. Okay. I hope this answers a lot of the questions about pre-life planning and reincarnation.
And more. And more. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Oh, good.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Yeah.
You hit all the questions. I didn't even really need to ask you. You kind of just went through it. So
okay, good. Yeah, so it like again, it's not a cookie cutter answer. It depends on the person's what's your intentions and what do you want to get out of it. Okay, let's take a look at what is available. So I know I'll give you an example for myself. Okay. I am supposed to bring old Lemurian knowledge back to this reality. Okay. Old Lemurian knowledge back. Old Lemurian knowledge.
Interesting. Okay.
And spirituality back to this reality, which is hidden in folklores of Buddhism, in the energy healing consciousness and metaphysics, in that space, in all that genre. And so that was my intent. Okay. And then by doing that, I found a fun way to do my job here in the physical realm, do my service, and also help raise consciousness into the higher dimensions of fifth dimensional consciousness during this time of transition. So that was my intent. So in my pre-life planning, I looked at, okay, what are the parameters in order to have this? So from a pre-life planner perspective, I incarnated into a Laos Hmong family. My mother is Hmong, and so is my dad. And they have, I did DNA ancestry report on myself to find out in my family where are all these blonde hair Asians coming from? Did we have Russian or some kind of Caucasian in our family? And it came back that that we're Hmong, and there's a tribe in Laos called Hmong who who are completely Asian or Pacific Islanders. They're not Caucasian at all. This is natural trait to this tribe, and their lineage goes all the way back, and nobody knows exactly their lineage. Well, the folklores of the Hmong in Laos is that they were giants, blonde hair, red hair, Asian giants in the Pacific Islands and in Asia. Hence, in Laos, we have the plain of jars. These tall, 30 feet or so megalithic jars. They're like cups. And the folklore of that is that there was this army of giants that was celebrating a war, and they just had basically a Super Bowl party. And then you have these skeletons in Thailand and Laos that are huge giants. Okay, so that's the evidence of a ancient civilization of giants in that area.
There's
Hence,
also skeletons found too, right? That are
there's skeletons. Yeah, there's skeletons found as well, and there's going to be more as they find out about it. But they find out, and they hide it from the internet or from mainstream media. But everybody in the area knows the folklores, and so we are descendants of diaspora from an ancient spiritual civilization called Mu or Lemuria.
Nice.
Okay, all right, and when the mega flood happened, the people that survived went to the tippy tops of the mountains as fast as they can. So they went to the top of the pyramids in wherever they were in Asia or in the Pacific Islands. They went to the tippy tops of all the mountains when the waters came up. Those were the people who survived. And then over time, when the water receded, they went back down and inhabited the continent, okay, wherever it subsided. Some people ended up in the islands. Some people ended up in Asia. Hmong tribe of Laos is in the mountainous area of Laos by Tibet and China, in that region, the mountains. So they're remnant peoples of diaspora from an ancient spiritual civilization of Mu, who were giants or mini giants that had blonde or red hair. Okay. And that's my lineage. Okay. And so then, of course, as a pre-life planner, I picked, well, then in order to find a connection to prove this, and where the information is coming from is in held in folklores and also in Buddhist murals and artwork, I'll incarnate in a Hmong tribe family. Okay. However, I need a communication vessel that is going to communicate with the whole world all this information that I uncover about your Merkaba, about ancient Lemuria, or in Hawaii, they it's not folklore, it's their history. The early Hawaiians were Lemurians. And yeah, which actually I'm doing a Lemurian ceremony on the beach next month with qhht, Dolores Cannon's daughter, Julia Cannon, and her group. They're doing a Lemurian ceremony in Hawaii, in Kauai, next month. So I'll take a footage and show that reunion. But anyways, so my work is to follow the folklores of Buddhism and the folklores in the area to show the evidence of the spiritual Lemurian civilization. And one of the pillars of the Lemurian civilization, because they're spiritual, is to understand your mandala, because they use a lot of spiritual technology, consciousness technology in this civilization. They're very advanced, but you couldn't tell because they basically look like Pacific Islanders and like Hawaiians. They look like Polynesians, but if they needed to, they will erect a pyramid. They will time travel into a different time frame. All of these folklores, it's all spiritual technology. So so in order to get the communication, I had to pick a family that I knew in their chart was going to immigrate to the United States. Okay. Because that's where the communication was going to, the internet. Okay. I had to look at the Earth plan. I got to communicate in the United States. So I picked a Laos Hmong family that had biological evidence of being, and cultural and religious evidence of being connected to Lemuria and the information from that is going to be raised in a culture that provides communication to the rest of the world when I do this work, hence the United States, because the internet, where I can get all the resources and training I need to provide the material in a consumable way, hence the podcast, the books, et cetera, and then also working with other clients that I had in the pre-life plan, all these tulku that incarnated, to help them go back on the path and complete their mission, hence the quantum hypnosis. They're coming through that way. So there's all these aspects and parameters that I had to check off, and that's what I brought with my pre-life planner when I planned out this life. I need to check all these aspects. Can you come up with some kind of life plan that would hit all these boxes? And this Von Galt was the incarnation.
So
you see how complex it is to be a pre-life planner? It's so complex.
You need to, right, like you said, hit all these prerequisites to even get to the skin suit that you're in right now. So
yeah, because you could say the Lemuria doesn't exist, and I can say my DNA says it does.
Right.
And you can say Lemuria doesn't exist in Buddhist folklore, so I can say the murals does. And you can say, well, we are not energy and we don't create our reality, and I can show you the proof of the mandalas, sacred geometry, etc., Christ consciousness. All these different things is like I had to, at this time, people had to be provided the proof. And the wonderful things is that a lot of my clients I interview also, my pre-life planners, I interview also on my podcast. and they all came here to do exactly what I interviewed them for, to introduce metaphysics, to introduce energy healing modalities, et cetera, to kind of help people transition into that next fifth dimensional level of existence. Okay, so it's a very elaborate plan. It's completely confusing to most people who haven't even gotten to that level of consciousness.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
they're just stuck on the basics, which is there is a God, we're all connected, and what and thank you for the teacher that brought us to the space, to this realization, whether it's Yeshua or Jesus or Buddha or Kuan Yin, whatever, Muhammad, whatever, bring us to the space. Great. Now you're in the space. Next level is this. This is the next level. This is the cosmic pre-life planning. Okay. And it gets really complicated. So, like pre-planning all the things that I wanted to check off, that I had to check off to get here was a lot of work. Imagine how much work it went in to pre-life plan the essentials for all of you guys. Okay, and so it's a big deal when you guys fall off and get distracted. That's why when you're getting distracted and you're getting stuck in like some sucky part of your life, you have all these metaphysical things happen because they're trying to like communicate to you, get back on the path, try this, try that, whatever. So that's where a lot of my clients come to me, and they go, my spirit guide told me to come to you. I found you somehow through some metaphysical way, and on and on. So it could be a long conversation when we talk about the life review and then pre-life planning, your incarnation.
I've started reading your book, and when I finish it, I'd love to have you back on the show to have a conversation about the book.
Oh, about your Merkaba?
Exploring parallel realities with sacred geometry, I believe is the first.
Yeah. So that one, and then this is a video too. Oh no, I would let there. Yeah, this one, this is the first one with Kuan Yin and her Merkaba, her mandala. You've seen this in all the temples, everybody. You know you have. I just explained what it is. And then people stop there, but you should go to book 2, which is Buddhist Mandalas, Christ Consciousness of a Multi-Dimensional Merkaba. Okay? Wow. This is next level when you understand your Merkaba, your mandala, and then how to navigate it to complete your mission of energy healing, raising consciousness. And then I'm working on the third book, which I hope to finally finish. Spirit's working with me on that too. And it has Miriam of Magdala on the front cover and her 3 children. And that is basically closing out like your whole sojourn and that you have dominion over reality, like finishing it out. So finish out the whole thing. And then when you read that, people have interesting experiences, and I always enjoy hearing from people who email me like, I read the book and then all of a sudden this happened and all of a sudden that happened and I had this sixth sense and that sixth sense, and then they come to me for sixth sense consultations, which it happens when you raise your frequency. You have graduated your energy field to a certain level, and now you open up new skills that you've already set for yourself, like new sixth senses. So it's kind of like physically when you are a little kid and you have the potential to jump really high or to do all these awesome sports things. Well, you have to grow to that height and get into that body to do those things that are set out for you to be able to experience. Same thing with spiritual. When you raise your energy field, your spiritual energy field, and you raise your consciousness to higher levels and greater energies, what happens is it opens up your spiritual sixth senses that's always been there, but they were dormant because you haven't activated them. You haven't reached that level yet. When you do, they come forward. And I have lots of clients who show me different sixth senses. And I take classes myself. Right now, I'm taking a pyrokinesis class online and a spoon bending class. So I take classes all the time because I want to see, well, there's spoon bending camps, but I wanted to try a online spoon bending class so I could do it online. And then when I achieve that, then I will interview the instructor, who is a student of Uri Geller, a student and friend of Uri Geller, and we'll go over his material because I've already tested it out that it works. And then I have a pyrokinesis class from another student of a monk, a Western monk that studied with monks in Tibet, and he was persecuted by Chinese communists in Tibet, and then he was released and he escaped. Now he lives in the Galapagos Islands by himself, but he has all the knowledge of what he learned in monastery that he also taught to the student, this Russian student who is teaching a pyrokinesis class that I'm taking. So hopefully I can do pyrokinesis, because I test all of this out to see, because I want to see your teaching pattern. I want to see, how do you teach, and okay. And I also provide people a lot of guidance and, okay, well, if you clarify this part in your teaching pattern, then it's much more clear. And then, blah, 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 blah. I give them consultation on how to do their website and how to create the books and blah, blah, blah. So the material is nice and easy. So I help. So Source put me in a trajectory for my pre-life planning to learn a lot of digital marketing skills. You guys can look at my LinkedIn. It's crazy. A lot of digital marketing skills, a lot of writing skills, a lot of business consulting skills. Why? Because a lot of people in this metaphysical space of fifth dimensional consciousness and sixth senses and awakening have spent their whole life studying this stuff, but they don't know anything about business. They don't know anything about writing books or marketing or anything on the digital space, which is the platform in which we communicate to the rest of the world and stuff. So, so that was more checks on my pre-life planning that I had to have. So have trust that the Lord picked out the best of the best to help you guys.
Right. All right. That brings us to the now what part.
Now what? The end. Yeah. Okay. So let's.
What pieces of advice or last pieces of guidance do you have for the listeners moving forward on their own life path?
Right. So nothing is dire. I will say nothing is dire, because there's always grace and compassion and forgiveness if you're willing to do the work and learn and grow from that. Okay. So even if you think you went the wrong way, there's a whole team here to help you. You just need to ask for help and be willing to do the work. Okay. Nothing is dire. If there is something that, for whatever reason, you keep coming back to it, then maybe it's part of your pre-life plan to not be scared of it, but go through that experience, because the other side experience is something wonderful. So that I will say that. So don't live in fear. Remember, you guys are all connected to Christ consciousness, to source within you and each other, and have compassion for people who are struggling the most, to realize that the bad people in your life, the people that we really, really do not like what they do, because their life review is scary. Okay. And they're going to get a life review. And some of, in the perspective of the pre-life planners, some of the people in history that we all love, all the saints and all that kind of stuff, they were horrible people at one point in their existence. Okay. So if you just measure them based on the bottoms of their existence, you completely cut them off the opportunity to make up for the wrongs they did in all these lifetimes and be Excalibur in their future lifetimes. So keep that in mind. I know it's hard, like you said, Jay-R, the elites, but have faith. But I will leave with this: every single one of my clients through quantum hypnosis, Source says the same thing with every one of them. So I put it in these words, and this is what Source wants everybody to know: you've always been enough. Use the resources all around you to create the life you want to experience, a life full of joy and love. The spirit world will nudge you through synchronicity. You can do it. That's it.
Amazing words from the Miss Von Galt. And where can the listeners find you?
My website with all my content is merkabachakras.com.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. That was amazing.
So amazing. Thank you for taking the time to speak with us today. If you like this episode, please subscribe. For more pre-life planning information, please join our chat on Discord. I'm Jay-R.
And I'm Helen, and that was another fabulous, fantastic episode.
That was so fun, Galt. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.